Welcome to Athens City Council. This evening we will be meeting in council committees. The meeting will be called to order by the City Council President, who will then pass discussion over to a respective committee. The chair of the committee will introduce the discussion topics and provide an overview of the issues at hand. If needed, members of the administration will offer brief statements to provide further context. We will then welcome input from the community. Any citizens who wish to speak will be asked to state their name and address, both verbally and on the sign and sheet located at the podium. Individuals will be given one opportunity to share their thoughts, and the committee chair will have the authority to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Once all citizens have had the opportunity to speak within the 15-minute time period allotted for total public participation on each topic, the public comment portion will be closed. Council committee members will then continue their deliberations. There may be additional questions directed to the administration during this time. When the discussion on the topic concludes, the chair will indicate whether legislation will be introduced at the next regular session of council and move on to the next item on the agenda or adjourn the committee if their work is complete. The next committee chair will then call their committee to order, proceeding in the same manner as before. Once all committees have adjourned, City Council will conclude for the evening.
Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, April 28th, 2025 at 7:02 p.m. and we have 2 committee meetings tonight, starting with the Transportation Committee, chaired by Member Spielness, joined by members Clodfelter, McCary, and Reisner.
Okay, I guess we can get started. First, we're going to have a special guest. And we're going to learn about a wonderful program that the HAPCAP has started already. And we're going to make this short but interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
informative but concise.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And this is Ben Ziff, who is, what is your exact title again?
I am the mobility coordinator for Athens and Hocking counties with HAPCAP.
Okay, great. I
Sounds
think that's
fancy. I
yes.
work with buses, wheelchairs, ramps, cars, trains, planes,
Very important.
gondolas. We don't have any of those here. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. A sky tram.
So on that note, I will let you proceed.
Great. Well, hello, everybody. Good to see some lovely faces here. And those of you out in the ether of the internet. So yeah, I'm just here to talk a little bit, just to give you an update on the free fare initiative that Athens Public Transit and Athens On Demand have here at HAPCAP. So that has started, and it is fairly self-explanatory. There are free fares for an entire year. That is due to a company. I don't know if where's my camera? Right there, you can sort of see the card there. Aha. Oh, there it is. It's sponsored by AmeriHealth Caritas. They're a large insurance provider, and they very, very generously kicked us a fairly large piece of change in order to provide this service for people. Wow. So it's for you anytime. You don't have to have this before you get on the bus. So this is just our community member free fare pass. If you don't have one yet already, we've already distributed some to the libraries. I think all of the libraries around Athens County. And if you just go to get on the bus, the drivers have a good supply of them on hand. If we run out, we're just going to order more. These aren't that expensive. You know, we're a nonprofit, but we can afford that at least, so that's good. Yeah, it's very, very simple. It's if you're a community member, there you go. If you're an OU faculty member, staff member, or student, you can just keep showing your OU ID. You still have Bobcat Pass. That hasn't changed. It's still free for students. It's just free for everybody now. So. A whole year, yeah, and there's a possibility of that hopefully we'll see how things go, extending for an additional year and potentially even into Hocking County for Logan Public Transit. And I do want to be clear, this also does apply to Athens On Demand. It's not just the fixed bus route, it's also the on-demand service, which while it is fairly busy and often you have to call like a week or so in advance to get a ride, it still is free. So it was $2 each direction, now it's $0, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Question?
With this really generous gift from this organization, will there be any change to the bus schedules while they're free?
Not yet. I will say one positive thing. For the first time in a long time, Athens Public Transit is operating in the black, which is like, it's been like 2 years. Not by much, just a couple of $1,000s, but you know, we're not we're not running at a deficit, which is really, really great. But there shouldn't really be any changes. There will be a change. Actually, I might as well mention this now. Line 6 currently, which goes through the Plains out to Chansey and JFS building, because of all the construction happening over there with the two small roundabouts over by 33, Line 6 is going to become Line 6A and Line 6B. And it's going to become two bi-directional routes. So there'll be a line that goes, they both still go from Mulberry in front of Baker Center. One will be going out the way it's gone through the Plains to the roundabout construction and then come back. The other is going to go out Columbus Road and out to Chansey past the JFS building and come back. So that's actually a pretty marked improvement. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with looking at bus maps and bus routes, but loops look nice on a map, but they are not particularly functional. Bidirectional makes a lot more sense. So that's one change that'll be happening soon, which is great. Speaking of construction, wanted to give a quick shout out to the city of Athens. The ADA ramp construction that's going on all around the city, a ton of those spots are where our buses stop, and it makes it more accessible for people. It makes it a lot easier for folks to access things, and yeah, it's a really, really great thing that we're all really excited about. Especially as we're the mobility coordinator, it helps with mobility. Yeah. Micah?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Does the extent to which these free passes are used determine or influence whether or not the program's renewed for an additional year?
I don't think so at this point. We're not really sure exactly on the metric they want to go with. I'm going to try and work some details out in the coming weeks. Maybe like a little onboard survey. Have you ever heard of AmeriHealth? And then, no, yes, no. And then next January, have you ever heard of AmeriHealth? Yes. Oh, see, it works. Give us money again. Because it is great. Like I always like to point out how important local match is for public transit. We're a 50-50. So we 50% local match. We can use that to pull down matching federal funds. So we can take this big chunk they've given us, and we can use that as local match to pull down additional FTA funds, which is really, really great for us. Yeah.
Okay, so one question I heard from someone was, do you have to be a local resident? Like, do you have to show your ID or something before you get, so like a tourist could come in and do this?
Yep.
All right, so it's for anybody?
Yep, anybody.
Okay, just trying to clarify. Thank you very much.
Indeed.
I appreciate it.
And I will say, public transit, it's in its name. It is for the public. It is for anyone and everyone to get out and use. I know that pretty soon we're going to have the Dora starting again uptown. So if you don't want to be driving around and you want to hop on a bus on Friday and ride up, have a beverage, walk around, do some shopping, then take the bus home. There you go. It's a safe, smart choice. Good job in advance.
For those users who do not live within the city limits but would like to use the on-demand service, does this apply to them?
Yep.
Okay.
Athens On Demand is for the entire county.
Yes.
Anywhere, if a trip originates in Athens County, and it stays in Athens County for the most part, then you can go anywhere you want. It's still completely free. Fun fact with Athens On Demand, we do have a grant through the Ohio DD Council where if you have any kind of disability whatsoever, it doesn't need to be chronic. You can have broken your foot. It's an acute issue. They're able to do trips out of county completely for free. So keep that in mind too.
And you don't have to have a particular income level or anything for,
Nope.
or, yeah.
Super
I think some
low
people
threshold.
assume, yeah,
Yep. We just want to help people. That's our whole thing. So
we appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys.
Do we have any questions from the mayor, from elected officials, from the audience? Anybody? All right. Anything else? Okay, I think we got it.
Told you I'd keep it short.
Thank you very
Thanks, Ben.
much. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, so we have one other item, and the other item has to do with street paving, the annual street paving. Every city's got to do it, or they should, and this is our time to talk about it. So I have a list here. If anybody has a street that they're concerned about, do contact the city and see if it's not on the list. I can go through it real quickly. Again, we do this every year. Of course, we have to. So proposed streets are portions of Columbus Road, portions of Schaefer, Mill Street, Reardon, Terrace, Miller, Armory, Lloyd, and proposed additional streets that are being considered: Mary Church, Montrose, Ondis, Della, portions of Mulligan, portions of Longview. So make sure you look around your ward and your neighborhood and see if you have any place that you think really needs it. Now, I know on my street, for example, you've done some nice job of cleaning it up in the past. We have a lot of truck traffic because of the Woods Edge plan near us. We have a ton of trucks that are really beating up our roads. So there's a few little potholes now, but there's no point in even talking about patching our road till that's done. So any concerns, comments, issues from anybody?
I'm going to take off my journalist hat, if I had one on, and put on my citizen hat.
Then you have to give your name.
Larry
and
DiGiovanni, Mulligan Road, 97 Mulligan. You did say Mulligan Road was under consideration. You said portions of.
Ask him.
Can you say what portions you're talking about? Or
The bad ones.
that would be quite a stretch because
Yes.
Mulligan Road right now, the potholes going up and down are pretty bad. And I would say that starts at the bottom and goes to the top. And there are some areas that are quite a bit worse than others. As you know, the steepest part is near Canterbury Drive. So in that area, but it's getting pretty rough. So I just wondered.
Well, I sent the EPW my suggestions for Mulligan. And I suggested that they start at the intersection of Canterbury and go up the hill all the way to Longview and maybe a couple of portions of Longview. Because those really do seem to be the parts that have really deteriorated.
Yeah.
So, and of course, at the portion where near 104 Mulligan, it's steep, you're going up to Longview. Half of that road going up is starting to slough off. It's going down the hill
Yeah.
the wrong way. And it's going to have to be repaired because it's going to go.
But when you
Otherwise,
get up to Longview proper, large sects of that seem to be very nicely paved. So it's kind of like a tale of two thoroughfares.
it is. I mean, you have to understand that EPW can only patch so much, and they go in and they look at the worst portion and they'll repair it, do a good repair. Well, of course, then you're going to have a stark contrast between that nice fixed portion and then you get the part that's not quite up to spec.
Yeah.
So,
We live on the upper
you know,
portion.
the only solution to me that I see is you just simply tear up that 1 mile stretch of road and put it all back down.
Yeah.
I mean, go all the way down to the base, grind it up, put down new asphalt, put up. But if you're trying to stay within $700,000 of a budget, there's no way you could do that.
When would it start? Or this summer at some point then?
Yeah, when the weather warms up and they get the asphalt plants opened up.
I know that you joked with me, Councilman Risner, at one point that, well, on the positive side, it does slow down traffic. Which is true, because people, that's a 25-mile-an-hour posted speed limit,
Yeah.
and people are zooming up right around
Well,
where my 89-year-old mother lives,
right.
at about 45 miles an hour.
Do you know how many speed limit signs are on Mulligan starting at Hickory and going all the way to Longview? Do you know how many are up there? I
Two.
counted them. There's 10.
Wow.
There are 10 speed limit signs that say 25 miles an hour on that stretch of road. Now, I don't know of any other section of street in the entire city, all 104 miles of street, that have 10 speed limit signs in such a short period. It's
Yeah. But it doesn't
So-
slow them down, I can
Well, I
assure
think
you.
it has done a job, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's not near as bad, or at least I don't hear the complaints like I used to about going down 80 miles an hour. Well, of course, that's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way in the world you could stay on that street at 80 miles an hour, or even 50. It's just, you can't.
And I know that, for instance, Councilmember Swank has already told me he's against speed bumps, and I can understand that. I would say, though, that there could be a benefit from a digital mile per hour sign, like they have on East State Street.
They've been put up there.
They maybe should consider maybe one at some point, because it's getting right where my mom's house is, that stretch going up toward Longview.
Right,
seems
yeah.
to be where
Well,
they pick up
that's the
speed.
straightest stretch,
Yeah.
That's where you can really build it up.
And you have a real aging population of retired
Yeah.
OU professors and OU people that if they aren't in nursing homes already, they're very elderly and they're trying to back out of their driveways. And I'm surprised there hasn't been a pretty big accident already, but it's good to hear it's going to be paved, though.
At least a
So,
portion,
hopefully-
maybe, no, see, it's at the bottom of the maybe we'll get around to it
Right.
part of this, okay? So I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you.
Well, you're saying, though, it should be, if it happens, it would be from Canterbury on up?
No, I'm saying that those are the portions that I recommended be looked at. Whether or not it will be or not, I don't know.
So, okay.
Well, they do have a very concrete, if you don't mind me saying that, formula.
Concrete,
Formula for figuring out the quality of the street and whether it deserves, if you will, paving. So it's not like a willy-nilly or whatever. It's
Thank you.
Yeah.
it's pretty sophisticated. Yes.
How much are they planning to spend on this?
It says 400,000 from the street fund, 220, 300,000 from state highway fund, 225.
700,000.
That's pretty average though, isn't it?
It's very
Yeah.
average. I shouldn't say that. When I took office, the average tended to be in the $400,000 range, and we have
Right.
increased it because we need to get more done in the city of Athens.
Yes, Mayor.
I'd like to at least state a couple things, because potholes has been mentioned several times. And there's a difference between street milling and repaving or crack seal, where we go through and we have whoever we contract with will also go through and do a lot of crack seal. Where there's potholes, the street crews are out right now filling it with not cold mix, they're putting in hot mix. So the plants are open, the plants are operational, so we get in pothole repairs versus, as was stated, this is for the larger street repaving projects that are identified by the Director of Engineering and Public Works. There used to be, if council, some of us remember, back in the day where we'd get on the 6-packs and 16-packs and go drive around and actually look at the streets and the conditions of the streets. Unfortunately, we don't do that anymore. I don't even think we have a 16-packs anymore. But the Councilmember Reiser, you're spot on. If we were to do Mulligan from Hickory, really counting Hickory too, but we just did Hickory a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
so why redo Hickory? But from the bend to where Hickory becomes Mulligan all the way to the top, if you were to completely mill that 3-inch mill and then repave again, that would pretty much consume a significant portion of what it is we're attempting to do. And you also mentioned this, and I want to echo this again, that Mary, Church, Montrose, Ondas, Della, portions of Mulligan, portions of Longview, that those are being considered. They are not in the original plan of repaving that needs to be done, which was the front end list that Councilmember Spielness mentioned. So I want to put that out there, but again, this is, again, $700,000 where we have kind of been doing that on a regular basis to that amount, give or take, to continue to do our street improvements. I also want to state that since 2016, there's been significant improvements in the street repaving program in what we've been able to accomplish, to where when I became mayor, there were still some streets that were rated at 3. 0 is a goat path. It's a dirt gravel road. Those don't exist in the city of Athens. But we are really the lowest tend to be 4s right now as opposed to any 3s. And that's how much we've improved the program and getting the repaving done in the city of Athens. That comes from the street fund, and as it was mentioned, but also out of our state highway fund, which is 225. So 220 and 225 is where the $700,000 will come from. 400,000 from street and 300,000 from the highway fund.
That's another question. Is there any possibility that we can team up with Ohio University when they're doing their repaving?
We have.
Right.
I will double check on that, Councilman Reisner, for this go around, because none of these streets would fit that bill. But we've done that in the past, and it's allowed us to stretch things a little
Right.
bit further when they have street projects. South Green Drive comes to mind right off the bat when we were doing some paving. They jumped in with us. South Schaefer was
Yeah.
another street that they repaved when we were paving elsewhere in that area. It cuts down on the amount of money, if you think about it, for a contractor to deploy for a sole area
Yeah.
as opposed to being able to double up and go, okay, we're gonna do South Schaefer and we're gonna do Schaefer as it heads up towards Washington Street and beyond. And so we've done that in the past.
Right.
Yeah, one of the items in the email that I received about this said that last year OU did not choose to participate with helping us. So it's not like a given that they're gonna
No.
participate, so just to let you know. Any other from the audience? Oh, sorry, Michael.
I'm trying to think of this from year to year, and I don't recall the street paving being an issue with other construction projects where we end up needing to ask for more money. So I'm trying to get a clearer sense of what happens during the actual project that helps us determine, are we going to come in under budget, or are we going to have enough to do these secondary priorities?
It really, thank you, Councilman McCary, because that's an important question, and I think a good answer for the public to hear is the way things work is when we go out to bid, we'll put out the streets, we'll put out the bid, we have the estimated engineer's cost to make this happen, and if we get a good bid, there is some flexibility in terms of what streets get done. In the past, when we had a good bid, I think this was last year as a matter of fact, that things came in well under bid, so we were able to include streets that weren't included in the
Great.
yes, these streets will be done category, and we were able to stretch that out even further to where we could do more streets. I don't really recall for the street repaving program ever a period of time where things started going over budget with the contractor to where we had to say, oh, we can only do, you'll have to remove these streets or this street from that list. That, to my recollection, in 9.5 years hasn't happened.
Great.
And so I feel that this $700,000 will get quite a bit done.
That's great.
And hopefully we can get a low bid again like we did last year. But look at the price of gas out there, and that's what drives a lot of the price of the asphalt plants because of the oil that goes into making asphalt.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, it looks like we will have this on the agenda for first reading next week, and we're done.
Thank you, Member Spionis. We now move on to Finance and Personnel Committee, chaired by Member Reisner, joined by Members Wood, Clodfelter, and McCary.
Wow, my throat. Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel Committee has just two items. The first is transfer from Special Revenue Fund 288 to Athens Community Improvement Corporation. So I'll invite any member of the administration or auditor's office to speak to this before we turn it over to questions.
I can certainly speak to this, Councilman Reisner. Let me lay a little bit of history out for everybody in terms of the revenue, special revenue fund that Auditor Heck encouraged us to put into place. In 2023, when we received our ARPA funds, which was about $2.5 million, give or take, the revenue, among other things, was for revenue replacement. We were pretty frugal during the COVID years and beyond with the CARES Act funding, which was very, very restrictive in terms of what that money could be used for. And then later, when we received the American Rescue Plan dollars, or ARPA, the auditor suggested that we put $500,000 into this special revenue fund, but also knowing that we have a time frame in which to expense the ARPA funds, which is the end of 2026. We have to show that we have effectively utilized the $2.5 million that we received. So we've kept it in 288, which is that special revenue fund. And at this point, with the funding, the capital stack that we've been able to put together for the Armory, as council knows, is in the CIC, the Athens Community Improvement Corporation. The speed at which, with the pays that we have going out for the renovations in the Armory, the speed in which we're getting the money in return from the capital stack, from all the different funding sources, from not Jobs Ohio, but from Ohio Vibrant Communities, from the Appalachian Communities Grant Program, from the state capital budget, this capital bill, it's slow. And therefore, we are requesting a transfer of the $500,000 to the CIC so that we can stay on top of what is obligated in terms of pay to the contractor and subs at the Armory. We're hopeful that this will cover everything, through this process. I also would like to share with council, as long as there's no more than two of you from any committee together and whatever, I encourage you to reach out to the service safety director or the deputy service safety director, and please walk through the Armory. We don't have a certificate of occupation. It's not done yet, although it's very far along. If you've noticed driving down Carpenter Street, if you look up at the pitch of the roof for the Armory itself, you'll see the new skylight up there, which pays homage to the original one that was taken away who knows when. But the original building had a skylight that was up there. It was louvered light windows on the sides. Rather than do that, we actually put the element to where the skylight is inside. But a lot of the work is done. We're still anticipating the project to be completed by late July, early August, likely early August. But to have this transfer will certainly help the CIC get the bills paid for this project. The auditor and I were talking about this. If there is unexpensed money, although we've completed everything, this would require the punch list items with the contract, which may go out as late as maybe beginning of October, for things that we identify in there that they didn't do or they need to be fixed or something like that, which is typical with any build anywhere. My own home, I had a punch list after the house was built. So looking forward in time, if we find out that everything is done and all the work has been completed, punch list items in early October, late September, early October, then the CIC would then send that money back to the city, and the city can put that back into 288 or whatever. But we have to continue to keep track of that money that it is being expensed, because federally, that is the federal funding that we received for the American Rescue Plan dollars that Athens received. So for us to be able, and for the auditor to be able to effectively account for all that, we have to account for everything to the Fed. So you have effectively spent the money that you received, and this is a good use of that money so that we can make sure that we're able to keep the renovations to the Armory flowing along with the general contractor and the subs.
Thank you. Auditor, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I think he said that's exactly, it's a cash flow issue right now for us to have money available to pay expenses and then ask for the drawdowns. When the project started, they did give us part of our money as a drawdown originally to get started, but after that, we had to do it in the reimbursement process since then, and it's, I guess, kind of caught up with us now. We don't have any extra money sitting there to pay the bills in advance of getting the money. So what we need, and as the mayor said, this is a good use of those funds that we have sitting there as opposed to getting a loan or anything like that at
Right.
this point in time.
Audience, including council members who are sitting in the audience. Any questions for administration, auditor? No? Members of the committee? Questions about spending this? Or actually transferring it, so. So on Monday, I guess we'll get an ordinance together and do a first reading. There you go. We'll move on to the second item. Authorize the auditor to reduce the 2025 year-end appropriations, which is something we do every year, but usually later in the year. So take it away, auditor.
We thought we would go ahead and ask for this now. This is a requirement by the auditors that we don't have appropriations in place that might be more than our revenue, even if we don't spend all of those appropriations, and we don't spend more than we have, which we wouldn't let happen. We can't have it on the books that there was money available to spend that we didn't have. So we have to do this. So usually it's after council's recess and they come back, and in the fall, it's kind of a lot of year-end things that start happening, and it gets pretty busy. We would like to go ahead and have that annual ordinance done now, which it won't actually pass until June, and then council will be on recess in July. So that we can look at where we are and possibly do some reductions sooner rather than later in the year. I review the monthly reports, and mainly, like now, we're a quarter of the way through the year, so March reports are quarterly reports. And in June, I absolutely look to make adjustments, usually on the revenue side. So if I make adjustments to the revenue, then I have to make sure that the appropriations, as I said, are not more than what we think we're going to get. And so I'd just like to be able to start this a little bit sooner, if I could. And so that's why I'm asking for it now, paying attention to the budget, and,
All right. Mayor, anything to add?
Thank you. Yes, I'm in 100% support of this. With what the auditor is asking for us to start this process now. Again, this is the 2s to 500s, so just bear that in mind. It's not the 100s, but because we can't. But for 2s to 500s, the auditor, we spoke about this earlier in the year, if not the tail end of last year, watching our revenue. And so I think that for us to start this earlier, again, my administration is 100% supportive of what the auditor is asking for. So yes.
just try to be proactive.
No.
I'm watching the budget.
Get ahead of the game.
Trying.
Members of the public. Members of the committee. Member McCary.
Thanks. We're almost into May now, and I'm curious as to whether you think this might be a practice that we want to move to before the July recess on an annual basis, or if you think this year will just be an exception.
Honestly, I think we'd be smart to go ahead and do it before the recess, moving forward. It just helps when I'm looking at the budget numbers. I'm already planning to reduce some of the revenues. That's something that our office does. It doesn't go through council. And so this way, when I do that, then we can look at the appropriations at the same time. Waiting until later in the year, it just gets to be pretty hectic. And when the budget process starts and council members want to know where we are on everything, I'm trying to do all of this. So, especially in the appropriation side, we've got like 1,800 account lines in there. And as the mayor said, we don't touch the personnel appropriations. But still, it's a lot to look at and try to get in place before the end of the year. we don't actually close out the end of the year right on December 31st. We can't, because a lot of bills and even revenue comes in after December 31st. But the more we have done ahead of time, the easier that process would be, because before we know it, the auditors are here asking for those reports.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
I think the auditor completely answered your question, because I heard you say, this year, continue it on. And again, I would be supportive of continuing on, because I think this is just the right practice. Now, bear in mind, if there's an emergency failure of something, then in talking with the auditor, we recognize that something has to be replaced, which is going to have an expense to it that might go into November or possibly December. Let's hope not. But to do this process earlier so that we really have a firm handle on how things are looking when we're addressing our carryover into the next calendar year is, to me, it's just good policy moving forward. So again, I support the auditor on doing this.
Other questions from members? Well, so Monday we'll have something to start, get a first reading and move forward. So,
Thank you.
okay. Well, that concludes Finance and Personnel.
Thank you, Member Reisner. We are adjourned at 7:36 PM. Thank you all.